We have to start our session today. Good morning, everyone. I would like to start this session with a very short introduction about, PACE, and then we will take it, continue with our marketing workshop today. So my name is Vartu Yandiyesyan. I am a business counseling manager at PACE Business Development Center. So many of you may be already familiar with the PACE. The name PACE comes as we are Pacific Asian Consortium in Employment, and we have different services. So our services is in child education, energy, workforce development, business development center, and many more. So again, I am from the PACE Business Development Center. We provide different type of services to the clients. Our services include counseling, procurement, and access to capital. So, and it doesn't matter from, startup to businesses who are more developed and established. We can work with them, with those businesses in all these three categories. I would like to take this opportunity to say thank you to all of you for dedicating your time and attending this workshop. In regards of this workshop, we understand that marketing is essential for small businesses because it helps to attract customers, build brand awareness, and increase sales. So even if you have the greatest product, if you don't have this marketing, and if you don't have this proper marketing channels, you cannot, your products will go unnoticed. So that's why we are offering this marketing workshops, this series. This is coming in 3 series. We will have in 3 weeks, and we are hoping that this will be helpful for all of you. So today's workshop is brought to you in collaboration with Marketing Maven. Lindsay Carnett is the CEO and president of Marketing Maven, and she founded the company in 2009. Marketing Maven was named as one of the most entrepreneurial and fastest growing companies in the United States. So I don't want to talk too much about Lindsay. I will let her to introduce herself and just give us a little of background before we start today's workshop. Just to let everyone know that we will have a Q&A session at the end. If you have questions, use the Q&A feature, write your questions, and we will address all those questions at the end. So I want to keep it short. Just want to thank you again. Thank you, Lindsay, for doing these workshops for us. And thank you, everyone, again. So let's go ahead and start our workshops.
Thank you for having me. So everybody, this is one of a 3-part series of marketing workshops that we're going to be doing. This really starts at the base. So this is talking a little bit about the fundamentals and a campaign launch and how to have a strategic approach. So today's focus is understanding marketing, advertising, and public relations in today's business landscape. And like she mentioned, I am the CEO and president of Marketing Maven, and I'm also the author of this book called The Marketing Maven Method, Secrets of a Maven, where we go into some of these strategies. So on today's agenda, we are going to be talking a little bit about what is required in the structure of a marketing campaign. What are some of the fundamental components and how do they fit into an overall successful campaign? So these are some of the bullet points. We'll talk about the difference between marketing versus advertising versus PR, because there are really distinct differences. And if you don't have those in your vocabulary, it's very easy to interchange those terms, but they mean something totally different. So it's important that we're all speaking the same marketing language, which is actually the reason why I wrote my book. And then the next piece is identifying the market segments and the verticals. So who's your audience and what channels do they thrive in? Next is talking about the concept of market research, marketing strategy, and marketing implementation, which is the Marketing Maven method. And then streamlining research, strategy, and execution. What are the successful elements? And then how to actually measure success. And the measurement of success is critical to know what outputs you want from a business perspective. So she asked me to give you a little bit of an introduction. So I founded Marketing Maven in 2009. So that puts us at over 15 years old as a company. And I have an office in Los Angeles and an office in New York. And this is what I'm known for. We just got named top 3 among top women-owned PR firms in the US. My book is a bestseller on Barnes & Noble, and we are a 2-time Inc. 5000 fastest growing company, and experts in using public relations to boost organic search engine optimization. So I'll talk a little bit about search engine optimization and what that is later too. Outside of the office, you might have seen me in Forbes, USA Today, or on major TV networks. I did something about the Popeye crisis that was happening when people were having fights at Popeyes, and I get called to do a lot of really interesting media segments. And I'm also a Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses alumni and a 2024 Chairperson's Award recipient from the West Ventura County Business Alliance, and an Entrepreneur of the Year recipient. So I'm an entrepreneur like you. And let's dive into marketing, advertising, and public relations. So what is an actual marketing campaign? This is a strategic process of creating, communicating, delivering, and exchanging valuable offers for customers. So we first need to understand the market needs, how to position the brand, and how to utilize a mix of advertising and public relations to drive awareness and engagement. So there is a structured approach to dive into it. From a market research perspective, when I say market research, there are a lot of different types of market research. So you might have received a phone call and said, "Hi, could you complete this survey?" Or you call your credit card company and they say, "Oh, please stay on the line for a survey." That's not the kind of market research that we do. We're doing a lot of scraping of digital content from the internet. And this is how we identify our target audience and analyze some industry trends. So we can look at a particular product category. I'll give you one example for if you're familiar with the probiotic company called Yakult. It's a Japanese-owned business, and they have distribution in the US. They have distribution throughout the world, but we actually compared the difference between the US market and the UK market for this Japanese company. And what we were able to find out is that there's a certain knowledge base of probiotics among people in the US versus people in the UK. And there's a lot of nuances in that space. So by looking at the social media channels, the digital advertising, the sentiment, whether it's positive, negative, neutral, we're able to actually develop a strategy with messaging, positioning, channel selection. What does that mean? Well, what are the unique selling propositions around the actual product itself? If somebody said that the bottle was too small, then that means that they had a tough time opening it. Or maybe they said that the product was really delicious, or it was too sweet, or whatever the feedback was. Then you can put a strategy around who the audience is that you really want to focus on. The third part is the execution and the optimization. So this is when you actually, I call it when the rubber meets the road. And when the rubber meets the road, it means that you are actually posting things on the social media channels, or it means that you're actually doing interviews with press, or it means you're actually going to a trade show, or you're actually contracting influencers. And then you get to measure what the results are. You're actually spending ad dollars and you get to see what happens. Did you actually sell product? Who did you sell the product to? Did you have any returns afterward? What is the actual result? So those are things that we outline in the Marketing Maven method. And this is a framework to think about, like a 1, 2, 3 step. This is one of our clients, JACCC. And this is in Little Tokyo in downtown Los Angeles. And they put on a show around anime. So if you know the big anime conference that happens at the Los Angeles Convention Center, there was something that happened with JACCC, with the Japanese American Cultural Foundation, so the Cultural Center. And so what we're able to do is develop out some messaging, do some digital advertising, and really geo-target the area during the time frame. People that had a love for anime that were probably attending the anime conference at the LA Convention Center, we were able to pull them from the LA Convention Center over to Little Tokyo to be able to interact with JCCC and the different places that they wanted to highlight. So this is what gets used interchangeably. Like I mentioned, marketing, advertising, and public relations. So when you say marketing, think about this being the overarching strategy that encompasses branding, customer outreach, and market positioning. Then there's advertising. Advertising is the actual paid media efforts. So this is could be Facebook advertising or Instagram advertising or YouTube advertising or putting an ad in the newspaper or in a magazine or any broadcast or outdoor advertising, like putting something on a billboard. So that is advertising. And then public relations is earned media, meaning that there's no dollar exchange between the company and whatever the media outlet is. And media outlets today could be PR, it could be newspaper, magazine, online, newspaper, blogs, etc. The only time where there are dollars exchange is with influencers. Influencers today are requiring payment, and you should have an agreement with them. And there's a lot of reasons why, from a legal standpoint, you should have an agreement in place specifically tied to the Federal Trade Commission that monitors the disclosures and the protection of consumers to make sure that they are not tricked by anybody without disclosing what that relationship is. So if there is a paid relationship, they need to disclose it. But in general, marketing, think about marketing as the strategy with the brand, the customer outreach, how you're positioning something. Advertising has a paid component, and public relations is typically earned. So when you talk about integrated marketing, this can tie in all three of these together so that they all work hand in hand. Because if your branding is not consistent in your public relations, or your branding is not consistent in your advertising, then you just look like you're all over the place, and it's not a really good package to go out the door with. This is a case study tied to Eva Air. If you're familiar with Eva Air, they're a Star Alliance partner. They're based in Taipei, Taiwan. And so we worked with them for their influencer collaborations and their social media content and driving bookings. So this is how we worked with Eva Air and tied in certain announcements that they had, like they did a partnership with Sanrio, for example, like Hello Kitty. And that was a really newsworthy announcement. And we got to integrate that into a lot of the social content and got to get some positive press around that. So how do you identify your market and industry positioning? So first you have to decide, what segment are you in? There's B2B, which means business to business, or there's B2C, which means business to consumer. There's also another one too that I'll throw in here as a bonus one called B2G, and that is business to government. So if you sell to the government, like if you're a defense contractor, or even if you could be a janitorial services and you could clean for government buildings, or you could be in construction and do construction for government buildings, something like that. That would be that you are also B2G. But we're just going to focus on B2B and B2C right now. So B2B, business to business, this typically has a longer sales cycle, and it's relationship driven, and it requires you to have thought leadership and you build trust. So these could be very large ticket items, like bigger contracts. Like Marketing Maven is a B2B business. We sell to other businesses. Versus business to consumer, this might be like stuff that you purchase on Amazon. So this has a shorter sales cycle. This is emotion driven, and it relies on brand awareness and engagement. So if you go to the grocery store and you pick out your favorite cereal, then that's a business to consumer relationship that Cheerios has with you, because you knew that you wanted Cheerios, you've heard of them, you like that, and then you're going to go purchase it. So let's talk about the verticals. So there should be tailored approaches for each vertical that you're in. Because imagine if you are a B2B business in technology, you've heard about enterprise technology sales. You have to speak a certain way to these decision makers. You can't just say, yeah, this technology is really cool and expect them to purchase it. You have to tell them, wow, this is enterprise level, and these are some of our big customers who trust us, and here are some testimonials from our customers, and here's a white paper on this topic, and here's some of our thought leadership. We got picked up in, Info Week, or one of the big outlets, U.S. News and World Report, featured our CISO about, his thoughts on XYZ. So that would be technology. There's also business to consumer technology too. So if you think about ChatGPT, hey, that's technology, and consumers are using it, and they're doing a good job branding it and getting out there in the media and talking about what a great tool it is, but it's not meant to replace everything. So that's B2C, also in the technology space. Healthcare could be another one. And this requires you to know a lot about HIPAA compliance and what the contact points could be for patients and not sharing information. All of this is really, really strict in the healthcare space. Same in the financial services. So a lot of times there are different governing bodies. For example, in the financial space, you would deal with the SEC. And you can say certain things and you can't say certain things. And there's B2B in the financial space and B2C in the financial space. Same thing with consumer goods. It is important to tell a story here. Think about a brand like Patagonia, for example. What does that mean to you? Or a brand like Apple, what does that mean to you? But there are a lot of entrepreneurs that go into consumer goods and they have a really unique story to tell. So I would encourage you to think about what your story is that you can tell and how you tell it to different audiences. So if you're in consumer goods, you could have a B2B relationship with a retailer, like, let's just say like Target. You sell your products to Target, that's a B2B relationship. But then you also have a relationship on the B2C side where you're telling your stories to consumers, and maybe they're buying them off your website, or they buy them off of Amazon, or they buy them off of at the actual retail store itself. So the way you tell your story is a little bit nuanced in each audience. I just actually returned from going to the Visit California Outlook Forum, and this is in the hospitality and tourism category. So I was at the JW Marriott in downtown LA for 3 days. And this is all focused on driving tourism to California. So this is really important. There are tour operators, there are destination marketing organizations, like different regions, for example. Like Marketing Maven represents Visit Conejo Valley. So Conejo Valley is in Agoura Hills and Thousand Oaks, and we have 15 hotels where our KPI, our key performance indicator, is heads and beds. So we want to drive overnight stays for these 15 hotels in Thousand Oaks, California, and Agoura Hills, California. And in order to do that, we are bringing in media and we're bringing in influencers to go visit these different places and talk about them and talk about the great hiking trails and the open air restaurants and the benefit to the small businesses in Thousand Oaks and Agoura Hills is that we actually have influencers and media eat at their restaurants and stay at their hotels and go do tourist activities here to try and attract new people. So the hospitality and tourism industry on the B2B side would be focusing on like, there's a big event called IPW, and IPW, there are event planners, and event planners are looking for huge, huge spaces where a lot of people can go to a conference and the place can accommodate a huge amount of people. So that's on the B2B side. Again, the B2C side, we would use influencers and digital advertising and all of those other channels to be able to get this location on their radar. And lastly, manufacturing and B2B services. This is very B2B focused, obviously. So this requires a high touch relationship and then solutions-based marketing. So we have another client in this category that manufactures Abrams tank wheels, and they actually do B2G as well because the US Army is their customer and buys their Abrams tank wheels, and they're also selling to other businesses too. So verticals are really important, and you might fall into more than one of these verticals. You might fall into 2 or 3 of them. So, I mean, Marketing Maven falls into all 6 of these because we have clients in every single one of these categories. So the communication and the examples of other clients in that category, you know, healthcare doesn't necessarily want to know about what you do for tourism unless it was like medical tourism, which is happening in Baja California. Like people are going down to Baja California to get their dental work done or get plastic surgery or something like that. So some of these can combine sometimes, or financial and technology, that's fintech. So some of these go together really nicely. This is an example for a Tokyo-based company that is actually a book publisher. They publish a lot of books with anime, and they took the concept of anime and a business book. So it'd be like taking the Marketing Maven method and then teaching you all of the concepts in here through anime. So it's kind of a cool concept. And we went and did the market research for them and looked at what type of media would be most influential with them. They're really focused on B2B. So despite these books going to consumers who are interested in self-help, and they're published by Wiley, the really, really big publisher. So their books are published by Wiley. They have huge distribution, but they're also trying to get on the radar of more businesses. So they brought us on to get them in front of more businesses through traditional media, like Forbes, for example, or different business focused media. All right, so how do you actually apply these concepts of research, strategy, execution? So the 3 core pillars are insights, 360. So competitive research and market intelligence. We talked a little bit about that. So how are you actually gathering data about your industry, and how are you identifying who your competitors are? This is really important to take a look at what's being done out there. A lot of business owners will just say, oh yeah, this is our target demographic, and you know, this is what people are saying. And it's just based on a small data set that you might have heard from other people. I just spoke with one company actually from Slovenia this morning, and they just exhibited at the Natural Products Expo West in Anaheim, the huge natural products trade show. And they said, well, you know, most people know this company, and most people know this type of product. And I said, respectfully, you're just comparing this to the small data set that you have from people who visited your booth. This is not representative of the whole US population. So I would encourage you to, yes, take what you hear at different events that you might go to, but also step outside of that and look for bigger data sets where you can get more objective intelligence prior to developing your go-to-market strategy. So strategy 360 is step number 2 in the Marketing Maven method, where you create an actionable roadmap. And this can be, who are our personas? And that you find out in Insights 360. These are our personas. So for this chair that I'm sitting in, they were just focusing on seasoned Samuel, but we helped them identify 3 additional personas. The additional personas were Successful Stephen, Modern Mary, and Cool Candace. And who's Cool Candace? Me, Lindsay. I'm a working mom. I'm a business owner. I like to have wine with my friends, and I would be in the market for a $1,500 chair. And so before, they were not advertising to Cool Candace, but after doing the research, they began doing some influencer marketing, doing some social media marketing, and grew this whole new revenue channel. And that is what we built out through the strategy, creating the actionable roadmap. How do you reach this audience that you found through your market research? The next piece is implementation 360. So this is where you actually execute and optimize the tactics. So we kept really, really close track of who are the influencers that we're contracting. We had to send them chairs. We had to have them get all the speaking points to talk about it, and then had to have them take the content, give it to us, let us edit the content, turn them into ads, do the targeting on the social media channels, and then deploy those so that we could get those out and start generating sales. So this part in the research has about 10 different steps and 10 different applications. So you could do the industry analysis. I gave you the probiotics example earlier. You could look at your competition. So figure 3 to 5 customers, 3 to 5 competitors. And then what is the sentiment? Positive, negative, neutral. And then you'll look and see in each of the channels, maybe the reviews are super, super negative, but the news is really positive. Or the blogs are really positive, but social media is really negative. So you'll notice where you need to spend your time focusing on improving the part that is red. You want to turn it into green, because red is negative sentiment. Green is positive sentiment. So you want to get the red into green. The digital analysis is really important too. Digital analysis means what are the dollars that your competitors are spending on advertising, digital advertising. So think Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Google search, YouTube, and then you can get an idea. Is there any seasonality involved? Maybe you have a, excuse me. Maybe you have a daycare, for example, and the daycare is really, really busy during the summertime for summer camps. That's really important to know about. Next, we talked about the persona development. Persona development is the Seasoned Samuel idea, Modern Mary. And then for product development, this is quite interesting too, because you could be looking at a chair company, think you have an office chair, but in fact, the gaming chair is the most popular, and that business could exceed your traditional office chair company. So what are you thinking about for product development? Or if you have a fashion company, maybe you have to analyze, what do people actually think about buttons versus zippers versus Velcro? Maybe they're saying, wow, I really like Velcro because of the convenience, but sometimes it scratches my skin and I really don't like it. And there are actually a lot of complaints about it. So that's important to look at from a product development standpoint. And next is product launch. So if you're doing this before you go launch a product, I think it's a smart thing to do, because then you can figure out what channels do I need to be in to reach whatever the audience is out of the personas. And like I said, for the digital analysis, to get into the investment piece, you would know exactly what the budget should be, how you want to scale the product. Do you want to go internationally? So this is the market research piece. I would definitely recommend starting here and then using the market research to go into the strategy. So in the strategy, when you're building out your plan, think about what is your overall vision for the brand and what items are going into your funnel. What does your funnel actually look like? And the funnel would be, how do people actually learn about you for the first time, into how do they actually buy from you and become your customer? And this is a little bit different from a B2B standpoint than a B2C standpoint, like we talked about. It might be a lot faster, might be a faster funnel for B2C, and it might be a longer funnel for B2B, because they have to trust you even more because they're spending more money with you, or there's a lot more at stake than if you just bought a $20 product. If you're buying a $200,000 product or a $20,000 product from another business, that's a really big investment versus just buying something for 20 bucks or something for $5. Next is looking at the marketing channels. You've probably heard the terminology, you don't want to boil the ocean, and that is absolutely correct. You don't necessarily want to be in every single marketing channel. You don't want to go to every trade show. You don't want to hire influencers if that's not what's going to matter for your brand. So the channels are critical, and you have to know how the audience is buying in your industry. And then going into the messaging recommendations, there are different messaging recommendations per channel. You might want to hear something different on Facebook than you want to see on Instagram, than you want to see on TikTok, than you want to read on a website, than you want to read in an email. So it's very, very different, and the method might be different too. So maybe you have a video that plays within an email, as opposed just to having a total text email. And it really matters who your audience is. Next would be the content marketing strategy. So what is the cadence? How frequently are you having posts show up on social media? How frequently do you have a blog? Maybe you only want to do a blog every other week. Maybe you want to do one every week. Next is spokesperson. Are you the spokesperson for the business? Or is there somebody else that's a spokesperson? Or do you have a group of subject matter experts? This is something where I just spoke with a former client yesterday that's interested in bringing us in for influencer marketing, and has new ownership. And the new owner of the company doesn't want to have one single spokesperson. He wants to have multiple spokespeople so nobody gets put on the pedestal. So that might be a strategy that you really like for your business, but it's something to be very intentional about. Next piece is for campaign development. This is actually putting some real timelines around things. So when are you going to start your organic social media posting? When are you going to start your email marketing? When are you starting your digital advertising? And joint marketing might be a campaign. So could be a collaboration. Maybe you have a coffee company and you want to partner with a nonprofit. So that would be a joint marketing campaign, caffeine, where part of your revenue goes into a donation to this nonprofit that matches the brand mission. Retail support. What are you doing to drive sales into retail? Retailers absolutely want this to be part of your marketing roadmap. If you have products in the store, then they would be able to say, okay, we need to move those products off the shelf. And then lastly, a quarterly campaign. What is a big concept that you could do every quarter? Next is implementation. So you have the market research, but this can be something that you go back to every quarter or every 6 months, or even do monthly benchmarking. We have one client where we have been doing market research for them every month, and it's focusing on a particular area of their business. This is a diagnostics company in the healthcare space, and they are having us look at different things, like how is their pricing? So we'll do competitive analysis with their pricing each month, like for one of those months. And then the next month we might look and see, all right, how's the customer service? What do consumers actually think about the customer service of this business versus their competitors? And then we might go in and say, okay, what about their cause that they are donating money to as a nonprofit? Like for their business, they give a percentage of their proceeds to March of Dimes, for example. So March of Dimes is really aligned with what their company mission is. Now let's look at the competitors, and the competitors might have nonprofits that they support. And so we see, okay, is that as well aligned with the mission as they have? And another example of this monthly benchmarking is called the brand pull-through analysis. So this brand says that they do this, the customer says that they do this. How much do those align? And if there is high alignment, then we call it a really strong match. If there is not good alignment, if the brand says that they do this, but consumers say, yeah, they actually do this, then that is poor brand alignment. And then something should shift with the messaging. So next is creative and branding, just going around this gear, if you will, clockwise. Creative and branding is, what is the image that your company is portraying, or what is your service offering portraying, just in terms of color scheme and the design, and what are the icons? Next is digital advertising. So to actually do some digital ads, do the targeting, spend the budget, and then get the sales in return. And then next is content marketing. So this would be like white papers or blogs, or email newsletters. Actually, email is its own thing. Next is web development, UI and UX. That means user experience and user interface, UI, UX, UX, UI. And so this would be like, if somebody goes to your website, do they actually know where to purchase the product? Do they know how to get more information? Is your contact form really clear? Is your font kind of a modern font, or does it look like you made your website in the 90s or the early 2000s? We've repaired a lot of websites that were made in the early 2000s, and there's a certain look and feel that wow, this is a really old website. So for people to trust you, that should also be updated too. There are also some benefits I do want to call out with using WordPress, for example. A WordPress website allows you to have really good SEO value according to Google, as opposed to like a Wix website. And then going into email marketing, how frequently are you going to email your customers? Are you setting up a drip campaign or a nurture campaign so that they get a series of emails? And then does it make sense for you to use influencer marketing? One of our clients at the Natural Products Expo West contracted us to do influencer marketing for them. And they actually chose to have one influencer that was business to business focused. So she's a registered dietitian, and this is for a dairy-free like cream cheese that you would put on a bagel. So tastes just like cream cheese, but there's actually no dairy in it. So she got to talk to her LinkedIn audience, LinkedIn Live, which had retailers, people in the industry, etc. So she had information for them. And then we had another influencer that was from Instagram, and she did an Instagram Live from the booth, and she was like talking about, hey, you should go get it in these stores and it costs this much, and these are all the different types that they have. Next is event marketing. So this could be activations, it could be any sort of in-store activation, could be a trade show, could be a lot of different things. And then social media marketing, this is with your organic content, so not paid. It's just your organic posts. And then public relations, public and media relations. So this is earned media that I talked about earlier. So those are the 3 steps. You made it through all 3 steps. So insights, strategy, implementation. So those are all 3 of them. And these are like the 10 gears that go in each of them and what they're meant for. So let's just review a little bit here. Role of advertising increases visibility and drives conversions. Public relations enhances credibility and audience engagement through earned media. And then the marketing strategy guides overall direction and ensures consistency against all platforms. So you see how hard it could be if you're doing all of these different things and your brand is not consistent, then it actually starts to erode trust from whoever your audience is. So you want to make sure that your brand is consistent, the messaging's consistent, and you know exactly what that looks like. We talked a little bit about Eva Air. And now let's talk a little bit about the execution and measuring success. So these are 6 steps to a successful marketing campaign. Number 1, you have to define clear goals. So think about what the business goals are. If your business goal, I'll talk about this Slovenian company that went to Natural Products Expo West, and this was my exact conversation with them today. My exact conversation was, what do you want to have happen with your business in the US? Well, we want to be in retail. Okay, well, then you should go sell online first. And so what do you need to do to sell online? Well, we need to get a 3PL fulfillment center in the US, and we need to understand what the US customer wants that's different than what our European customers want. And then we need to do digital advertising, and we need to grow these direct customers as well, not just Walmart.com, not just Amazon.com. We need to drive our own customer base. We need to do email marketing to them. We're going to use Klaviyo, for example, and do email marketing campaigns. And then we can go into the retailers. So it's, and the biggest thing on that was pricing. How are you going to be pricing your product if eventually you do want to go into retail? And then what do you need to sell it at? And then what costs per acquisition dollar amount do you need? So this is going to allow us to then do step 2. Who are you targeting? What are their demographics? What are their interests? What are their behaviors? In this example, maybe it's a mom. So I'm a mom of 2 little girls. My 2 little girls tried their product. They love it, and it's for immune health. And so if we're looking at immune health, then, it's probably the mom of the household who's between 35 to 45 that might be purchasing this product. And this is without us having done market research. Next, what's developing the messaging and the offers? What value are providing? Well, if my kids are sick, then I have to stay home with them, or my husband has to stay home with them, and we miss work. And so for us to spend money on this immune health product for our children is actually cheaper than one of us missing work for the day. So that is the value that they would provide. A healthy family, that's worth a lot. And then selecting the right channels. What platforms are going to maximize reach and engagement? So am I going to learn about this from an article in LA Parent? Maybe. Would I also learn from it from an influencer that I follow or a digital ad that I get because I fit this demographic? Yes. If I saw it in both of those places, would I be more likely to purchase it? Yes. So think about where is your audience, and you have to go to where they are and feed them the information that they want. I would want to see really nicely prepared visuals, copy, campaigns. I would want to know, how does this actually work? Do the kids actually think it tastes good? Fortunately, my kids got the advantage of trying it, but if it were just, me saying it for the first time online, I would want to probably hear from another mom, like, my kids love the taste, don't worry. And then I'd say, okay, I'll give it a shot and have my kids try it. And then lastly, measure and optimize. So how are your KPIs performing? And then what is the approach for continuous improvement? All right, we have 2 more slides. This is focus on content marketing and storytelling. So this is a big component of a campaign. You've heard about elevator pitches for your business before. This is the same thing that you have to do in all of these different channels. So social currency would be content that people want to share and engage with. This could be something like the concept of Ethos water or Tom's shoes. For every pair that you buy, a pair is going to go back to somebody who doesn't have shoes. And this is social currency. It makes you feel good. Emotional appeal would be some sort of personal connection with the audience. And then practical value would be providing useful, actionable information. Maybe like the helpful Honda guys I'm thinking about, because they would tell you information about your car and help you fix it. And then consistency across channels. This you definitely, I am hammering this in again, want to make sure that your brand messaging is consistent across your website, your email, and your social media. And then lastly, metrics and optimization. So metrics are how you're measuring everything. So website traffic and engagement, if you don't already have Google Analytics set up for your website, get it set up. It's free. And, maybe on one of these next topics, we'll learn how to analyze your Google Analytics. This will tell you how long somebody's on your website. It's called session duration. If somebody's only on your website for 16 seconds, they probably don't care about you or your business. If they're on there for 2 minutes and 45 seconds, then they're probably an interested prospect. If they're on there for 4 minutes and 25 seconds, you probably have awesome content for them to be reviewing, and they're very, very interested. That's a really, really great prospective buyer. And then we'll talk a little about SEO. What is search engine optimization? This is how Google is ranking the content. So your website has different pages on it. Those pages, based on the information that's on them, is actually either performing well or not performing well. So that's the SEO piece. And then for conversion rates, is the content converting? Are you actually getting sales from it? And for social media metrics, we look at likes, shares, and comments and saves and follower growth. So those are things you want to pay attention to see, is your content resonating or not? And then overall ROI, what is the cost that you're spending versus the income that you're receiving? And then finally, customer retention and loyalty. So how are you evaluating their long-term customer engagement and repeat business? So don't just do this once, do it regularly. It's like doing your laundry. Just when all your laundry is clean, you say, oh boy, now I have more laundry. And so you should be looking at these and getting a feel for them and getting really comfortable with these numbers so that you can figure out, all right, how am I doing? So I think we're going to open it up to questions now.
Yes, thank you, Lindsay. Lots of, information, good information, which is, it's essential for the businesses to understand how to do and like how to do the marketing in a better way. So we have questions. So far, we have 2 questions. So let's start with the first one. One of our attendees asked, are there any specific tools, systems, or programs you recommend to help get competitive analysis or insight? He provided the example of Nielsen.
Yeah, so Nielsen, 1, it's really expensive, and 2, it works really well for television advertising spends. So Nielsen, yes, you could buy Nielsen, you could buy Kantar. We actually don't use either of those, but partners of ours do. We use about 12 different tools. That this is like the second largest line item in our expenses every year. 1 is salaries for staff. 2 is technology. So we have a suite of tools, but I'll tell you some free ones. 1, if you wanted to use as a scheduling platform, would be like Hootsuite. And Hootsuite is great for scheduling social media content. And I believe that you can do the paid version to get some of those insights. We also use Sprout Social for insights to organic posting, and we actually use that as a scheduling tool. So Sprout Social is another one. So those 2 for social media. But yeah, there are a lot of different tools out there, and I'm happy to correspond with any of you. I have my contact info in here too. So we're actually developing a few tools off that are custom for our clients as well.
Just for the audience, the email, Lindsay's email is on the screen, so you can write it down. You can communicate with Lindsay directly. Correct, Lindsay? Yes.
Yeah,
they can
absolutely.
they can come up. Yes. Okay, and there are a couple of more questions. So let us go to the second question. It's a bit of like lengthier. Carlos asked for a social enterprise, and he explained it as a small business that has social values like paying their workers fairly. How can one do a market research on looking into prices and competitors, knowing that the competitors will likely be charging less? And he continued, like the business is not going to be able to lower prices. I know this may be more of a business strategy question, but wondering, when thinking about the marketing strategy that would be recommended here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to go back to his ultimate messaging around the company. So knowing that from a pricing analysis, they are going to be the most expensive. I think, we work with social enterprise companies, and it is different. Like I just did I'm on the board of a nonprofit. And so when we look at compensation, for example, you can use tools like PayScale, for example, and then you say, okay, this is what it should be, but ours is always going to be a little bit more. So we're going to this percentage. And so there can be, take the market research, use that as a knowledge base, but then you are making an intentional decision to either go above it, below it, or at status quo. And again, the messaging around it is everything, because, to be a social enterprise, that is aligning values. And so if you're aligning values, then that makes all the difference in the world. And that just has to be clear in all of your channels and all of your messaging. I hope that's helpful.
Okay. So there is another question. asking if you can share your slides.
Yeah, again, you can contact me directly and I can
Okay.
follow up with anybody directly.
Okay, so in regards of the recording will be available in our website. We have an e-library where you can find different workshops recording and you can watch them free. There is nothing. It can be like at your pace whenever you want. You can go and watch it. It may take 1 or 2 weeks for our marketing team to upload it, but it will be there. So there is another question. Do you have any advice for cause mission-driven marketing?
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of opportunity for cause mission driven marketing. I think the partnerships too that you can align and announce, like you could actually get a lot of the partners that want to align with cause driven marketing. I don't know if you're a cause driven marketing organization yourself, but like we used to call this like CSR and now it's like ESG and then it's DEI and then it's always changing like what are the names for this type of marketing, but figure it's partnering up that is cause driven. And sometimes the partnering that you do, you can use them as megaphones and maybe some of the partners that you're partnering up with have bigger email lists or bigger social media followings or bigger PR budgets or whatever that looks like, what that communication strategy. I would use them as your megaphones to help get that message out there that you guys are partnered up.
Okay. The last question is asking, with everyone inundated with emails nowadays, do you think blogs are also recommended?
Blogs?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we always recommend blogs, and blogs are important for search engine optimization. I will mention this because I didn't mention it earlier, that I do not recommend using AI to write your blogs because Google penalizes you for blogs that are written by AI. Same thing for your website copy too. Please, please don't use AI to write it. You can come up with ideas using ChatGPT, but don't let that actually write your content for you. And to go back to your question about if emails are overdone, I think you have to analyze what is the cadence of the emails that you're sending. You don't want to send it necessarily like one email every week or one email every day. But if they're in a nurture campaign, if it's a monthly newsletter, if it's something like that, or it's for a specific thing, then I think that works. But you also have to know who your audience is. So for email marketing, list hygiene, list segmentation, all of these things are critical for good email performance. And you could also, the content of the emails equally important. So if you have really strong blog content, you can take that blog content and get it into your email and use that as some of this really rich content to get people back over to your blog where you're having this really great thought leadership. So this whole thing, the whole point of this whole entire discussion is that everything should be working together as an ecosystem. If you do one of these things by themselves, they're not going to be as strong as if you do all of these things together.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I don't see any more questions. If anyone has any other question, please feel free to. Okay, there is one here. It's let me see. What do you recommend as a marketing tool for a tax business?
For a tax business,
Wow. Yeah.
I would first figure out, are you focusing on clients that are consumers, individuals, more of like a one-on-one, or you're focusing on businesses and you want people with really complicated taxes with businesses and multiple properties because those are high dollar value tax clients for you. So those would be two different audiences, and then they would have two different tactics. And I would look at the, always in that space as centers of influence. And so what networking groups are you a part of? So I'm part of Provisors, for example. So to look at other businesses that could send you business, or participate in your local chamber and some networking thing, because I think people have to trust you if you're in the tax business, unless you're you know, the lowest price and you're doing a volume business. But if you're in the more complicated one with a higher dollar value for taxes, I would go the thought leadership route and think about where you could be viewed as providing some valuable information to the audience that you're looking at. I would be looking to do something maybe in the local business journal.
Okay. I'm looking on the chat. I see a couple of questions there. So there is one, let me just go, I just missed it. Let me go down. It's asking for marketing and PR. Yes, what advice would you give to a startup marketing and PR agency focused on helping small business in Orange County? I guess it's more or less the same, but like you can.
Yeah, I mean, I would consider yeah, doing the same thing that I just mentioned for the tax company, like really going and networking. I started my business 15 years ago the same way and just had to knock on some doors and say, here's what we do and here are our capabilities, and think about how you can help others. I think if you go in with that, like what's in it for them, then you can go a lot farther, a lot faster.
Okay. Once again, if you would like to get the copy of the presentation, please contact Lindsay directly. Her email is lindsay@marketingmaven.com. The website is www.marketingmaven.com. So feel free to connect with Lindsay directly if you need to get information or you need to get the slides.